Hey, welcome to our OSU Rio live streaming Thursday morning telecast. I'm Patrick Dengel, executive producer of the OSU Rio Collaboration Telecast Programming. Our Thursday morning broadcasts originate at the Ohio State University South Center's TV radio studio, along with our Wednesday broadcast at the University of Rio Grande and its studio. We telecast different educational programs on a variety of topics, which include educational matters, small businesses, aquaculture, agriculture, horticulture, trees, soil, bioengineering, business organizations, and many, many more. Our broadcasts are live streamed, which can be located on YouTube channel www.youtube.com South Centers and on our Rio Grande Cable Access YouTube channel. Our broadcasts have been listened to and viewed in over 178 countries. In the next hour and a half, we will be highlighting some of our favorite telecasts. Upcoming, we will be broadcasting 6 different programs, but first, we have a special guest in our OSU South Center studio, Dave Apsley, a natural resources specialist with the Ohio State University Extension Program. Welcome, Dave.
Thanks, Pat. Thanks for having me in.
I really appreciate you coming and sharing some information. And we have a surprise to the listening audience in future shows. But first, Dave, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I work for Ohio State University Extension, and my specialty is woodlands. I'm a forester, and I mainly focus on working with woodland owners in the southeastern part of the state, and encourage good management of those woodland resources.
And so, basically we're talking about trees. I often wonder which is the best kind of trees to plant in yards.
Well, when it comes to yards, that's not really my specialty. And what I'll tell people with trees, whether it's in their yards or in their woodlands, that they really need to get a professional to help them to look at their site, to look at the soil conditions, the light conditions, and then decide from there. There is no best tree. It really depends on your location and really what you want to accomplish as a woodland owner or homeowner.
Well, I know in southern Ohio we have a variety of different trees. Some of them are oak and different kinds of trees, so it'll be interesting when you talk more. Let's see, there's 3 initiatives that you're involved with.
Well, so your little lead-in is a good lead-in for the first one, and that is our efforts in southeast Ohio to encourage the management and restoration of oak. Southeast Ohio is where most of the forest land is in Ohio. Ohio is about 1/3 forested, and 2/3 of it is in our Appalachian counties. And that forested area is predominantly dominated by oak. But we're looking at some trends, and we don't like the trends. What we're seeing is we've got a lot of oak in the canopy, but what's regenerating is not oak. And so because of the importance of oak for wildlife, the importance of oak for the industry, a good example is Speyside over in Jackson County just opened a facility that depends on white oak. And when you look at the importance overall of oak, the trends of them being converted based on the type of management or the lack of management, we're putting some efforts in, and it's a collaborative process. We are working with lots of partners, but our principal partners are the U.S. Forest Service out of the Wayne National Forest. We're also working with the Ohio Division of Forestry, and then NRCS. We're working collaboratively to encourage management on our private woodlands. What a lot of people don't realize is of that forested area, and down here we may be 65-70% forested. We've got counties like Benton and Lawrence that are 80% forested, but that is owned by private individuals mostly. About 80% is owned by private, and so we're encouraging management on private lands.
I think that's very, very important, especially if you do have an area where you have a number of woodlands. Keeping that in pristine condition is extremely important to that individual's property.
It is. It is, and a lot of people just don't know much about the resource, and they make quick decisions. that's a good lead into one of the other things we're going to talk about, and that's call before you cut.
Huh.
So a lot of landowners make a quick decision about selling timber, but they don't really think about the long-term consequences. They may not get the value that they could get in the short term, but it may take away options for the future as well. So one of our efforts in Southeast Ohio is Call Before You Cut. It actually started in Athens, Ohio, as a brochure. It's a little trifold brochure, not unlike this. And in 2006, we took it statewide. We now have a web page called Call Before You Cut, and that's callbeforeyoucut.com. CALL, the letter B, the number 4, the letter U, cut.com. And we started out in Ohio in 2006 with an initiative. Now we're in 9 states. So it's basically a one-stop shop where a landowner can go and they can get information. Our primary message really is to get help. You do this once in your lifetime, maybe. And so you can't know all the ins and outs about cutting timber.
That's very, very true. You know, one of the topics that I once in a while run across is individuals that look at our state and our federal woodland areas in southern Ohio, and they talk about clear cutting. And I'm hoping that sometime in the near future you can talk about the benefits of clear cutting versus not clear cutting.
Absolutely. And there's a lot in between.
Yes.
And those are really essentially extremes. The way a woodland owner cuts now typically is they take a few trees out of the canopy. Clear cutting is taking all the trees out of the canopy. And really, if you want to manage for oak, we want to do something in the middle. And we have to do some extra work to get it there. But either one of those techniques probably don't encourage oak as much as we'd like. So,
Yeah.
and neither one's good or bad. It really depends on what the landowner's trying to accomplish. Obviously, a 2,000 acre clear cut might be an issue, but a couple acre clear cut on a woodland might be a good way to start it over
Yeah,
again.
yeah,
So
that sounds
depends on
good.
landowner objectives.
So let's tell the listening audience some good news. What you have coming up with our different TV and radio programs?
Well, we're hoping to have a couple opportunities. On June 21st, AgriTalk down at Rio Grande. I'm going to hopefully be a regular on that program. And then on June 29th here at the South Center's Chat with Tom Worley.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to be a regular and to bring woodland type issues to the forefront. And before we get off, I'd like to promote one other thing is we have a series of programs called A Day in the Woods.
A Day in the Woods.
That we do at the Vinton Furnace State Forest predominantly. Second Friday of every month we meet and we have topics for woodland owners ranging across the board. Everything from songbird management, which is coming up here in June, to actually how to harvest timber and more detailed information. So we've got lots of good programs. $10 for the day with a good catered lunch.
Wow.
Great opportunity to get out in the woods and learn more about the management of those woodlands.
Well, Dave, I really appreciate your coming on our program. I'm looking forward to some really good,
Sounds like a good
educational programs. And I encourage individuals to contact Dave. Dave, how's an easy way to get in touch with you?
Couple opportunities. One is email apsley, apsley.1 @ osu.edu. And the second is you're welcome to call me, 740-710-3009.
Okay. Well, Dave, thank you very
You're
much.
quite
I
welcome.
really
Enjoyed
appreciate
it.
that. We're now going to be looking at 6 segments of videos that I really like. In our first broadcast, Kimberly Rausch is a moderator who interviews Brad Bapps. He's the director of the Small Business Development Services for the state of Ohio. Business counselors with the Small Business Development Center, or SBDC, as we like to call it, work with owners of small businesses, assisting with the developing business and market plans. They also are involved with technology counseling, loan planning, and a variety of other different small business needs. Most all counselors own or have owned their own businesses. Counseling services are of no charge, and information is kept strictly confidential. Here is Kimberly and Brad in this short segment.
and welcome to Business Matters. I am Kimberly Roush, moderator and program assistant with the Ohio State University South Centers. Today we have guest Brad Babst here with Business Matters. Brad is the director of Small Business Development Center here at the South Centers, and today we're going to kind of talk about, I call it a video bio, talk about your history, your education, and things such as that that help you with your position here.
Okay. Well,
Tell us about yourself.
Well, thanks for having me on, Kim. Well, I've been here with the OSU South Centers for a little over 22 years now, but just served in a wide range of different job functions and job titles. But most recently, for the past 13 years, I've been with the Small Business Development Center. So it really all started out with myself in my education. I'm a graduate here locally in Pike County of Eastern High School. And from there on, I went to college at Shawnee State University here in Southern Ohio. I grew up on a family farm where I still live. So staying close to home was very important to me. Being part of the family, the local community, part of our small business that we have with the farm, kind of made me want to stay close to home, and that's why I chose Shawnee. My degree at Shawnee State University was plastics engineering technology. Something I'm really driven by. I'm very mechanically minded and things like that. You know, production kind of activities kind of spurred me on and drew my interest to that program. So that's what I decided to major in. Along with that program, there was a lot of math, science background, a lot of classes that I took in those. So, you know, I completed my 4-year program there at Shawnee. And from that point, you know, I guess, you know, when we graduate from college or high school, it's time to really get a job, right? That's what our next function is after that. That's what we're looking for when we do that. Anyway, after my degree in engineering technology with the plastics program, I started looking for jobs here in Southern Ohio. And at that time, opportunities were very limited for jobs within that degree here in the region without relocating. Of course, you know, had deep roots here in Southern Ohio, to family, to the community, to personal business. So moving away really was a very difficult option. So the opportunity came for me to come here to the South Centers and get a job, and there was a position open, not in plastics, but in the Soil and Water Resources program here.
Nice.
Which, you know, I had a science background with college, with education there, a lot of chemistry and science. So I got a job collecting soil samples here at the South Centers, working on agricultural research projects, which, you know, I kind of had a skilled background in that, where I grew up on a family farm and I've always farmed and understood, you know, general production practices and how to get things done with crops. So those two things kind of meshed together, created a good opportunity for me to begin my professional career here at the South Centers as a research assistant within that program. So worked out really well for me. Worked with the Soil and Water program for 3 years here at the South Centers. Then the opportunity became available that within Pike County they were looking for an agricultural extension, or a 4-H extension agent within that program with OSU. So I thought, well, you know, I'd always been a lifelong 4-H member, applied for that job, and was selected to be the Pike County 4-H agent on a 2-year part-time term, while someone else who was serving in that role was out doing some grant work on another position. So I was the Pike County 4-H agent for 2 years. Wow. The grant funding that my predecessor was operating on to do some other programming had expired. So that position then kind of went away, and an opportunity to work here at the South Centers again, you know, reemerged. That was back in around 2000 when they started working with some of the berry crops, which right now, if you've seen a lot of the programs here about the South Centers, they focus a lot on berry production, strawberries, raspberries, blackberries, lots of different berries.
Right.
Lots of different berries. So that's when that whole initiative started with the berries. So I came back here to the South Centers and started working in agricultural research, but this time focused with the berry production. So, I did that for 2 or 3 years. And then after that, my focus kind of shifted back into the soil and water programs that we have here. So I worked with them up until 2005 when I was approached by one of the program leaders at the South Centers within the business program. I said, hey, have you ever considered, moving over to the business side of the program?
Very nice.
So,
very nice.
Yeah, so I moved at that time, applied for and was selected to be a member of the business team as a business counselor with the Small Business Development Center.
Funny how things come around. You
It is.
come back to the.
It kind of all
South Centers.
runs full circle and
Right.
just kind of a continuous thing, steps and steps and steps, and then you get to a certain point. So that worked out pretty good for me.
Very nice.
So
What's your favorite part of your job?
just working with the small businesses that we help and seeing them achieve success.
I could see that because you kind of have a vested interest being from Pike County and a resident.
Right.
And went to school close, and yeah, I can see where you have an interest in success, local success,
Right.
definitely.
When we meet with a lot of individuals who are looking to start their own business, and we work with them through that process of understanding what they really do want to do, what's involved, what are the costs, what are some of the milestones that they're going to have to achieve to be successful. And sometimes when people come to us, they think, well, it's simple to start a business. Just once we get started, things will happen, we'll make money, we'll be successful.
Right.
But there's a lot of other things that are involved along the way. And we work with those individuals and try to explain to them how important it is to have a thorough plan
Right.
before they start.
Instead of just taking every path.
Right. And to play out some different scenarios of what might happen or what might need to be done along the way. And to make sure that, they've examined all of the potential pitfalls that might happen along the way. The what if scenarios. What if, we get started on the project and we run out of money? How can we deal with that 6 months into the business operation, and what are our options? And hope that some of those things don't happen, but at least, we've thought about it before we get there.
Right.
And we make sure that we're making the right decision for our business and for ourselves and for our family. And that's the thing about a small business. There's a lot at stake whenever you start a small business that you want to make sure, you're prepared.
Right.
And a lot of times you have to invest a lot of your own personal money to start a business. And we just want to make sure that that's the right thing to do. And a lot of times, if you're wanting to borrow money or get a loan, it's your house that you're going to have to put up for collateral to get the
Skin
money.
in the game, yep.
So exactly. So making sure that's really what you want to do and that you're really willing to risk that
Sure.
to start the business.
Sure, I could see that.
Yes.
Well, we're going to take a break here, and when we come back, we'll see a video clip, a short clip of one of our clients that we've worked with in the past.
Hey, we were talking with Business Matters with Kimberly Roush, who spoke with local SBDC Director Brad Bapps about how he started with the university and how the Small Business Development Center works with startup and existing small businesses. Our next segment features Susan Foltz, along with Ryan Mapes, in our popular Manufacturing Talk series. Susan is the director of the Manufacturing Assistance Program with the Office of Small Business and Entrepreneurship throughout the state of Ohio. Ryan is the manager of the Endeavor Center, a business incubator, as well as program leader with the Business Network team at the Ohio State University South Centers. Both Susan and Ryan have much experience in working with small businesses and small manufacturing companies throughout Southern Ohio. Discussion surrounds manufacturing need assessment surveys, additive manufacturing funding, and other points of interest. Here's Ryan and Susan.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to MEP Talk. I'm Ryan Mapes filling in for Mick Witt. Today we have Susan Foltz, who's a regular on the show. She's the state MEP director. And we have a couple of topics that we'll be talking about. Additive manufacturing and high school internships, so through manufacturing. So welcome, Susan. Good to talk to you. I assume you have hot weather in Columbus as well.
Yeah, it's pretty comfortable. Yesterday was a little warm.
It was muggy.
But we've been able to get all the corn planted, a lot of garden done, so.
Well, it finally dried up enough to get the tractors in the fields. It's been so wet down here that either people had stuff laying in the ground that was rotting or just couldn't get it in the ground. So,
Yeah.
so hopefully we've turned a corner.
Yeah.
So, well, I know we talked previously just for a few minutes, but I know one of the topics that we wanted to talk about today was additive manufacturing. Would you like to share just a little bit about what that is and how it is related to the MEP program?
Sure. Additive manufacturing has been commonly known as 3D printing for a long time. We start to encompass a few additional technology-based projects around the manufacturing sector that also fill into that additive. It's a way of looking at new ways to manufacture using brain-based versus brawn-based. So it can be a wide variety of different things. But currently, through the Ohio MEP program, we have a special project that's being led by Fastlane at the University of Dayton Research Institute in Dayton. And the project's open to manufacturers all across the state to provide them an opportunity to try additive as a way to do some of their business. Maybe they need to do a small batch processing, or maybe they need to try a new prototype built through 3D printing or some of the other additive functions. So the local Ohio MEP affiliates are all engaged in this project. So you can go to Ohio MEP. If you Google that, the top option is going to be our website, where you can go in and get contacts, phone numbers, and everything for everybody. But through the MEP, we provide expertise. So they're looking at experts in materials, machine technologies, general process flow, designs for manufacturing, and then analysis after you go through that project. It might be that you want to make a product that has some kind of polymer included in the form. So there are a lot of different, I want to say, mediums that they use now in 3D manufacturing. So it's not just plastic anymore. They can do a lot of metal and other types of materials. They do advising around applications. So if it's new product development, if they're looking for a special component, tooling or fixtures, then like I said, rapid prototyping or castings. So there are a wide variety of ways that they can advise a client to begin to work within additive manufacturing. They provide also the engineering services. So a lot of 3D printing can now be done by reverse engineering. So it's not like you have to have CAD drawings to go to the 3D printer. You can actually bring the product, and they have the capability to redesign that from the product itself. They do a lot of optimization opportunities and exploring ways to make them better. Maybe they need to be stronger. made quicker. So a lot of different options. Then we do a financial risk analysis. So when you're looking for ways to fund your application, the MEP program provides funding to the MEPs for their clients to subsidize certain projects. And then that gives you a little better reason to try it. If you've been on the fence and you're not sure if you want to go into additive, it'll give you some incentive to move forward. And then we always do education in way of hands-on learning opportunities. So it may be learn on the job, it may be seminars, maybe webinars, or actual college-related courses that help get them there. A couple years ago, Fastlane did a pilot project around additive, and they were able to generate projects with about 100 companies. They did 21 successful projects that they actually helped to pay for, and it helped to generate some economic impact. So we thought this was time, to try to fund and bring more manufacturers into the field. So some of their economic impact, they had over 58 million in cost savings. They created 11 jobs by implementing additive in a couple of new places. They had increased sales of 75,000 just in the pilot project. And then there was an increase in investment of over $500,000. 3D printers have gone from, the tens of thousands, depending on what you want to do. You could probably get a very basic one nowadays for under $2,000.
It's a manufacturer talk with Susan Foltz and Ryan Mapes, and their discussions surrounded manufacturing needs assessment survey, manufacturing funding, and other points of interest. Their telecast, their podcast, their broadcast comes on the third Thursday of each month, in which both Susan, Ryan, several other individuals talk about different manufacturing needs. And so we always look forward to that particular program. We're going to take a quick station break. We'll be right back and look at our next program. Hey, welcome back. We're showing a number of different clips from some of my favorite segments. Vinayak Shedeker is a research associate with the Ohio State University Soil and Water Bioengineering Program at the South Centers. His team consists of scientists and engineers with a diverse background, as well as a strong background in research and extension activities. They currently have 8 grant research projects on agriculture, sustainability, climate change, mitigation, and ecosystems. He interviews Dr. Steve Coleman, who is an associate professor of soil fertility at the Ohio State University School of Environmental and Natural Resources, located in Wooster, Ohio. I assist in the co-hosting. So here's Steve and myself. Hey, welcome back to our OSU Ryle live streaming Thursday telecast. And it's my pleasure to co-host with Vinayak Shedeker the Ohio Health Soil Series, in which we talk about various different things that Vinayak is involved with. Vinayak is a research associate with the Soil Water Bioengineering energy program at the Ohio State University South Centers. We at the OSU South Centers collaborate with the University of Rio Grande and Rio Grande Community College to promote small businesses, educational programs, students, faculty, aquaculture, agriculture, horticulture, soil, and other kinds of business organizations. Our mission is very simple: to provide educational programming regarding growing our communities in Southern Ohio, in the state of Ohio, in the surrounding states, and likewise on a global basis. We have over 120,000 viewers and listeners who have tuned in to our different telecasts, which encompass 178 countries or more. This week's theme is agriculture within our universities. It's my pleasure to present Vinay Shedeker, who's going to talk with interesting guests that you brought on today.
Yes, Patrick, and thanks for having me. This is a new series we're starting. This is our second episode.
Yes.
So this is the first episode was just about the introduction to the whole series that we're going to do, and we had Alan Sendermeyer as our guest.
Yes.
But really today is the first guest, and we have a privilege to have our first guest today, which is Dr. Steve Kullman. He's an assistant professor with the Ohio State University in Worcester, and he's the new soil fertility specialist for the Ohio State. So I'm just going to welcome Dr. Steve Kullman here. And Steve, I think we're going to just let you introduce yourself. Just tell us about yourself, a little bit of background, and currently what you're doing.
Sure. Well, good afternoon. Thanks for having me. And I'll just say again, my name is Steve Coleman. I am the state specialist in soil fertility, assistant professor here at Ohio State in the School of Environment and Natural Resources. I'm based in Worcester, and I have a three-way split of extension, research, and teaching. So I grew up in Ohio, but been a number of different places in terms of grad school and as a postdoctoral researcher after grad school until I came here, which was in the spring of 2013. So I'm going into my fourth year now. Again, it's mostly a nutrient management, soil fertility position, and my specialization, or I really focus in kind of nutrient management, soil fertility issues, and also do quite a bit of soil health work in terms of testing, trying to develop methodologies from a very applied perspective and try to educate farmers why soil health is important, why we are interested in measuring things and developing measurements or indicators or tests so that farmers can, or whoever can, submit samples and get that tested. So that's it's a lot of work involved in that in terms of trying to get it from a kind of a relatively newly emerging idea into something that's practical and in place. And so we work in a number of other areas, and anything in the context of what builds fertility. So looking at rotational diversity effects, cover crop effects, long-term tillage practices. So a lot of really interesting things going on now, and just happy to be.
Hey, Steve, you got my curiosity. How did you get into the soil? Was it by accident? Was it a lifelong dream? What led you to doing what you're doing today?
Well, everybody knows it's every kid in America's dream to grow up and be a soil scientist someday, and I just am one of the lucky ones that happened to actually. I think the latest poll I saw was football player, firefighter, and then soil scientist was number 3. No, I'm just kidding. But I don't know. I just it's a good question. I get asked that from time to time. I don't particularly have a great answer, except I just was exposed to agriculture growing up, and I did grow up on a farm, but I worked on farms, and summer I was the summer support, the summer help, and just kind of got interested in how much agriculture dominates our landscapes and how much it has really large implications for the way we grow food, for all kinds of globally environmental processes and the natural, ecosystem of the earth. So part of that, that's a lot of what led me down that road anyways. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Steve, since you've been to grad school and some other job opportunities in states other than Ohio, you are from Ohio. Do you see any differences or a lot of major differences in soils in Ohio compared to other states, particularly agricultural soils with respect to quality and soil health?
Yeah, that's a good question. Most recently I came from UC Davis, and so of course things are quite a bit different out there, both in terms of soil and climate. And a lot of, in addition to that, you're thinking about different crops, and a lot of the kind of specialty horticultural crops in California are managed very, very differently, very different constraints than here. So in some ways it is quite different, right? I worked in Michigan for a little bit. Those issues are a lot more similar to Ohio. So yeah, of course, just as you might expect, quite a bit of diversity of soils and different cropping systems and regions out there. And so, in the context of soil health and soils in general, everything is place specific. And what is really primary constraints or concerns for producers here in Ohio can be quite different than they are, say, in Iowa or South Dakota or California or Washington State, Florida, wherever we're going. Yeah.
Hello, welcome to our OSU Ryle live streaming Thursday telecast. I'm Patrick Dengel, executive producer of telecast programming at the Ohio State University South Centers. We are at the South Centers, collaborate with the University of Rio Grande and Rio Grande Community College to promote small businesses, educational programs, students, faculty, business organizations, and of course, agricultural programs. Over 110,000 viewers and listeners have tuned in to our different telecasts, which encompasses 178 countries. This week's theme is Extension Programs at The Ohio State University, and more importantly, how these telecasts assist the people we serve. This program is ASL Chat with host Emily Wickham. She's the Student Services Coordinator with The Ohio State University Department of Agriculture, Education, and Leadership. And this week she features Justin Bauer, a graduating senior in community leadership with the ultimate goal of being an extension educator. So welcome, Emily and Justin.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you.
I think it's always really great when we have 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks before you graduate.
Like 10 days?
Yeah, 10 days as of today. We started our countdown.
Sort of remember, I had it down to the hours. So Emily, let's talk about Justin.
All right. Well, Justin, like you mentioned, Justin is a senior in community leadership, and that's a major name that maybe a lot of people don't know about. So we're going to talk a little bit about the community leadership major, and what you study, and also what you can do with that after graduation. But first, Justin, I just want you to introduce yourself to everybody. Tell them a little bit about yourself and how you got to Ohio State.
Yeah, so again, I'm a senior here, graduating in 10 days, super excited. But I grew up in a small town. I grew up with about 1,400 people in a little town called Arlington, Ohio, south of Findlay, Ohio. I grew up on a dairy farm, but we transitioned to a grain farm when I was young. But I definitely grew up in the agricultural world and never thought that 4-H and extension would be the path I'd take. But my senior year of high school, I did a lot of soul searching, and I really came to a decision that I wanted to impact the next generation and the youth of tomorrow. And because of that, there was no other avenue that really drove me besides 4-H. I've been involved in 4-H for a long time. Because of that transition with our farms, I had to get creative with some of the projects I took. So I did a lot of public speaking, citizenship projects, did arts and mechanics, but also dairy cows, and some horticulture and gardening projects as well. So I have a wide range when it came to my history of 4-H. But as I grew up, I got very passionate about it. I've been the president of the Collegiate 4-H Club here at The Ohio State University for the past 2 years. I just turned over my officer position just about a month ago. So it's been exciting to see that grow. But ever since deciding to make 4-H my goal and extension, there was no other choice but to come to The Ohio State University. 4-H is founded here in Ohio. We have a deep, rich history with extension, and this college, specifically even this department, has a really rich history of producing and creating amazing 4-H educators and extension educators who impact not only their communities, but individuals at a very personal level within every county of Ohio and within every state in the country, and then within 72 different countries. So it's a super exciting program that I don't think a lot of people are aware of, and the impact you can have. It just happens to be that my passion is youth. So, yeah.
So let me ask you this, Emily. In the coursework that individuals like Justin undertake, how does that help them to prepare for being an extension educator?
So Justin's specialization of the community leadership major is community and extension education. So that specialization is kind of created specifically for those that want to go into non-formal education like extension. And so I'll let Justin talk a little bit about the coursework that he took, and how he will be able to apply that into his profession one day.
Yeah, so a lot of classes we take are so one class I'm in this semester is called community development. And so that literally is looking at a community and where it currently stands, seeing its needs, maybe the areas that need to be finessed. We talk about the 7 community capitals, those types of things. So it's important to kind of get an idea of what in your community, what in your county should you work on. So for example, some counties struggle more with drug addictions, or they could struggle more with poverty or food deserts or whatever, and how can we as educators help in those areas. But also we take classes on non-formal education. So you're set up in an outside classroom on a sheep farm, and you have third graders to teach about how we use sheep in agriculture, and you've got an hour to do it. How are you going to do it? Go! So very much so this educational aspect of what are your goals, what are your objectives, and how can you more so go to the people and teach them where they're at than bringing them to an institution or something and trying to cultivate their knowledge from there. But a lot of the classes are based around that community development or that non-formal education piece. So how can we take those two, combine them, and impact communities throughout extension and 4-H? So
I think that's very, very good. One of the things that I'm very impressed, the individuals that Emily you have brought on, as well as Justin, you're very comfortable in speaking in front of groups. And I would imagine that in some of those courseworks, the ability to be able to speak in front of those groups is extremely important. And it sounds like maybe you've been given a lot of opportunity to do so.
So part of the community leadership major, so all students in our college are required to do an internship, and then also they have what's called early field experience. So that's something that they do at the end of their freshman year of college, just to get that, like that introduction into extensions. So Justin, will you tell us a little bit about your early field experience? And now Justin has a little bit of a unique story because he did not start college as a community leadership major, and I think that's something that would be important to clear up. Justin started as an agri-science education major, and I think I've mentioned this before, but before Ohio State switched to semesters in 2012, that's when the community leadership major was kind of created or introduced. Yeah, and so it gave it a new name, but in reality, it had always been around. It was just a specialization of the major, agricultural and extension education. So Justin was actually just telling me yesterday that when he started, he was an agri-science education student, and I remember him being that, but he always said he wanted to go into 4-H and not to the classroom, and I remember kind of like wondering why he wasn't majoring in community leadership. But, he was talking about how, when he wanted to go into work in 4-H and extension, and he spoke with people that currently had those jobs, they shared that they had studied agricultural education in college. And at the time, when they would have been students here, it was agricultural education with a specialization in extension. So when he then came to Ohio State and realized, like, oh, there's this whole separate major for extension education that I need to be a part of, like, that's really where I fit, then he changed over. So your early field experience, was it with extension or was it in a classroom?
It was in a formal classroom.
Okay.
But my internship was both at the state 4-H level and at the county 4-H level. So I interned here with Franklin County 4-H, and then I interned at the state 4-H office with camping and older youth with Hannah Epley. And so I've been part of camping and older youth. Even before I did my internship, I worked at state camps, have been staff member at multiple county camps around the state. And so I love camp because it's an opportunity to take youth out of their comfort zone, put them in a new area, and really capitalize on that growth and that ability to really hone in on what we can learn outside of a classroom setting. So I last year interned a large part of leadership camp. So I 4-H leadership camp, and so there's 16 to 18-year-olds all around the state of Ohio who come to that. We had about 93, I think, last year campers, and we talk about different pillars of leadership. In fact, this year I'm coming back as an instructor, so I will be teaching a motivation class for 3 hours, and how motivation builds into being a leader, and how we're not only in charge of motivating ourselves, but motivating the people we're leading as well. So last year I helped a lot of that coordination. I did some of the training for the counselors, those types of opportunities. And then at the Franklin County 4-H level, I worked with their camp counselors as well for their 4-H camp. And then I also worked at their county fair. So I coordinated some judging, some miscellaneous judgings. I was also a judge in some circumstances in which they didn't have a judge and needed someone on retainer. And then I also helped out with just the flow for the junior fair board at the Franklin County Fair, and assisted in different ways that I could. So.
Hey, that was streamed live on April 27, 2017. ACEL Talk with Emily Wickham, who features Justin Bauer, graduating senior in the community leadership, and will be attending the graduate school next year, with the goal of being an extension educator. Hey, before we continue with our next segment, it's my privilege to be working with what I call as a magician. He's the system specialist at the Ohio State University South Centers, Dwayne Rigsby. You know, we have a lot of really good people working in front and behind the cameras. And Dwayne, wanna thank you again for all the help that you have. And are you there? Hey, Dwayne.
I am, Pat. Thank you very much.
Looks like you're in between an office and a field.
Yeah, I got a nice window out back here. How you like that? Yeah.
I think that is fantastic. You know, Dwayne, are working with Kimberly Rausch, who moderates one of the programs. We also work with Mike Thompson at the Instructional Design and Media Services at the University of Rio Grande. And I think all of us try to put on a variety of really good TV, radio programs. And I know that you're featuring a number of the programs. It's apropos, you know, one of the things that you're involved with is AgriTalk. Want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I do AgriTalk at Rio Grande, along with Mike Thompson, and we highlight different, if you would, programmers or ag agents. And what we do is interview them from time to time on whatever we can. Maybe the topic is field crops, or we've had John Grimes on several times talking about beef production and the markets there, and then also maybe the devastation that we had out west and with a fire, things like that. And then I also help co-host a Tech Talk one too, Patrick.
One of my favorites also.
Uh-huh. It's pretty good. There's three of us on that show: Mike Thompson, myself, and Kingsley Meyer. He is the Rio Grande Campus Computing. Is that right, Patrick?
Yes.
Campus Computing Director, and we talk a variety of topics, including security. Maybe some of the new gadgets that are out, maybe some new apps for your phones or things like that. So we just do a variety of things.
And I know that most of our programs are for educational benefit. So we try to provide a variety of different topical areas.
And we do. We've even got other shows that we haven't mentioned yet. We have I don't remember the name of the topic right now, but about health, right? And that's from a lady in Jackson, and I think Mike Thompson helps with that. Is that correct?
That is correct. Certified nurses practitioner,
Yeah.
Sherry Russell.
Yeah, Sherry. And that's a great series coming along, and I think we've got a new one that will be coming up.
Tree Talk.
Tree Talk, yeah, in
I think that's
forestry.
great.
I think that'll be a great one because our area is so covered with woods anyway. And how do you manage that? And how do you manage that resource?
Yeah, that is very true. Dwayne, you've been around the South Centers for a number of years.
Yes.
Tell the listening audience a little bit about the South Centers.
Well, the South Centers started in 1991. And
Before the turn of the century.
Before the turn of the century. Yeah, it's been around forever. And what we first started out was we were a research and extension facility, mainly research. And we started with horticulture crops and some field crops. And then we also did a study on water quality down on the river bottom, and that went on for several years. But since then, we've come up with more horticulture crops, and then we also have aquaculture. We also have a business and economic group, right? And
Yes.
then we have a soil and water group. So
Yes.
what we do with those is the business and economic development. That's part of you, Patrick. They have the SBDC, is that right?
That is correct, the Small Business Development Center.
Uh-huh. And then there's some other things that they do with manufacturing, and then we have a co-op group now, is that right?
Yes, we do.
And that's headed up by Hannah Scott. So if anybody's ever trying to start a co-op or have interest in a co-op, you would want to contact her.
You know, Dwayne, I didn't realize until I started talking with Hannah and some of her associates. We live in a variety of different co-ops. Some of the insurance groups are co-ops, and it's just amazing how those particular programs really help.
Yes, yeah. I think buying power is the biggest thing, to where you can go to have more people to buy a quantity. Is what make that work. What makes that work? So.
Understand. Well, we'll come back to you in a little bit. We're going to be playing the segment with John Grimes and you talking about beef and cattle, but we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Alrighty.
In our next segment, John Grimes is an Ohio State University Extension Beef Programs Coordinator who provides educational and counseling services to many farmers who raise beef cattle for sale. John assists beef cattle farmers, and he himself has enjoyed a long history providing a beef cattle ranch, if you want to call it that. John and Dwayne discuss the commercial beef industry that assists cattle operations in making and maintaining an efficient and profitable business entrepreneur enterprise. Here's John and Dwayne.
Hello and welcome to a new edition called Agri-News for the Ohio State University South Centers. And today we're going to highlight John Grimes, our beef specialist here at the university. So welcome, John. And John, give us a little bit of information about yourself and where you started and what you're doing now.
Sure. Been with Extension for over 31 years now. Started out as a Extension Associate in Brown County back in 1986, was there for a few years, and then jointly shared a position in Adams and Brown County as County Extension Agent in the early 90s, moved back to Brown County in the mid 90s, and then was in Highland County as the Ag Agent there for several years until I moved here at the beginning of 2011, and I've been in this position, the Ohio State University Extension Beef Coordinator position, since January of 2011.
Great. So now what does a beef coordinator do? Give me, just.
Well, jokingly, I guess I would say I do state beef specialist work without a PhD.
Without
right.
Yeah. There you go.
And paid accordingly.
Right.
So,
right.
No, just a little sarcasm there, but basically I work with. We have a beef team, which is several extension educators and state specialists that work on beef interests. For the longest time, extension educators have been able to devote a certain amount of their time in a special area. So we work with those folks. We have a newsletter that we put out weekly. Stan Smith in Fairfield County is the editor of that. And so between working on the content for that and some of our statewide programs, such as our beef school, we can talk about these more in detail. We have a webinar series that we have every winter that we've done for several years. The newsletter comes out every week. And any other projects along the way, we kind of coordinate that. So that would be... primarily everything I do would be with beef cattle, but because of beef cattle, we do some forage work as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with that, obviously you said you hold some webinars and things like that. Do you, in those webinars, what are they covered from beginning cow-calf to end of harvest? Or,
well, I would encourage. I didn't know when we were going to work this in. I would encourage folks to go to our website. Our beef team has a website. If you go to u.osu.edu/beef, and we've got lots of information there. We have the newsletters published there every week. We have a library of
Okay.
different publications and fact sheets from Ohio State and other universities. We have a YouTube channel where we have several videos, and we're trying to grow that because we think that probably stays a little more current than some of the print publications. But there's a wide variety of topics there that you can go check out, and we do have links to other universities too. So I think there's a wealth of information there, and so we try to keep that up to date as well as we can.
Good, good. Well, I know you were just out west recently.
Yes.
And seen some wildfires that went on and stuff like that. Give us a little bit about what you've seen, and I think we've got a picture or two about that
Right.
as well. But go ahead and give us a little synopsis of what happened out there. I mean, it was just devastating.
Well, I think it was, and it is. It'll go on for several years. Some of those folks, it'll take quite a while to recover. And it was on Monday, March the 6th is when it hit. And still not sure of the total certainty of how they all started. There's rumors and innuendos, but it does appear that possibly power lines were involved, sparking from the excessive winds. But there were 4 states that were impacted by this, and this is a picture from Kansas. It's probably the county that I'm aware of that got impacted the greatest, Clark County, Kansas, which is southwestern Kansas. It's about 2 hours straight west of Wichita, about an hour southeast of Dodge City. This particular ranch where the picture is the southern side of the ranch borders the Oklahoma Panhandle. So if you kind of look where the Oklahoma Panhandle starts, that's about geographically where we're looking at here.
Now, that fire there, I think we talked before, is that like almost a mile away?
That's a mile. If you look at the green
taking?
in between the hood of the truck and the fire, that's a section of wheat, and a section's a mile square. So that's roughly a mile away. And behind that grove of trees, you can see in front of the fire were some buildings. Now, the buildings did not, the barns and the primary facilities at this particular ranch did not burn, but to the right-hand side of that fire was one of the ranch family members' home that did burn. Basically, where these fires hit, the only thing that burnt was dry prairie grass. They had a really good grass year going into this. And so there's a lot of fuel, and then you take 60, 70 mile an hour winds. This particular shot was actually in the middle of the afternoon. If you look at the top center of the screen, you can see how bright
it looks like a sunny day, isn't it?
Yeah, and then you look at the fire. And if you look closely, just above the fire line, you'll see 3 dots. Those are actually night lights, spotlights. It got so dark from the smoke that it triggered those. But Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Colorado were impacted by this. In this particular county, Clark County, Kansas, is about 620,000 acres. 460,000 of them burnt.
Wow.
And
that's amazing.
It was, I heard about it. I know lots of people out there and heard vivid descriptions, but until you see it, it was unbelievable.
It's really hard to just look at even.
But this particular ranch is about 47,000 acres and about 41,500 acres burnt.
Wow.
And there's all kinds of stories about this. I think we have a picture the next day. The second picture we've got shows what it looks like after the fires went through. And this is kind of an ironic picture. This is a young cow that had a calf the day after the fire.
Wow, just the day after.
And then you look at the scorched earth, so to speak, and
nothing to graze on. Nothing to eat at all.
So that's what those folks were really challenged by is they lost feed, they lost animals. I know the vet, the primary vet in this community, told me, I was out there about 3 weeks ago, that they estimate they lost over 4,000 cows in that fire. So that was one of the lucky ones that you just saw there. And so I guess what I would tell people is, there's lots of places that have natural disasters and all, but these folks, this is a community that is primarily ranching. You do not see industry. I don't know what the population of this county was, but when the county seat is less than 1,000 people, you're in a rural.
You're in a rural area, aren't you?
And so it was really shocking to see, and it was depressing for those folks because they lost feed, they lost fence, miles and miles of fence.
Now, didn't you say that the fence cost
It's about what I've heard is 5 strands of barb
Yeah.
and some combination of wood and steel posts. They're estimating about $10,000 a mile
Wow.
to build.
$10,000 a mile.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
But that's
unreal.
that's less than $2 a foot.
Yeah. It seems cheap, but when you
But
talk,
when you put the sheer size of it,
when you're talking miles, that's
it's
something different.
staggering. And the thing of it is, I know there's ranches that lost everything. They lost their home, they lost their equipment, they lost their animals. And I feel for those people. So there's been some. I guess I've told you the bad side of it. The good side of it is. How people have stepped up to try to help these folks.
Right,
You know, there's been lots of foundations set up to donate money to these folks. I think we have another picture that shows some of the hay donations that have come in that when they were starting out. It was there you go. It's pretty amazing to see just the volume of hay that was being brought in there. And I know since I was there, there's been a lot more. When we were there, we met caravans of trucks hauling hay in from multiple states. I know Ohio has sent quite a bit out there. I mean, I've seen stories from Missouri, Michigan, I mean, all over. And, you know, it's kind of, I guess, renews your faith in humanity that they're not waiting on the government. They're trying to get help. Now, it would be nice if the government would help those folks. I think all of us, we think about the current political situation. We talk about taxes and tax breaks and projects the government does. This was truly a natural disaster. I don't think this would be what you call a pork belly project. You know, this would be something where they could help the community. So what I was going to say to wrap kind of our discussion on this is that if you go to the Ohio Cattlemen's website, which is ohiocattle.org, there is a page that talks about where you can make monetary donations. There's different funds. I know Kansas Livestock Association has gotten several $100,000 donated, and then that community right there, the Ashland Community Foundation, are two of the big ones I'm aware of. But this isn't just Kansas. This is Texas, Oklahoma, and Colorado. But Kansas probably got hit the worst.
Probably the worst.
And it's really amazing there wasn't any more loss of life. In this, I think there were 7 or 8 people that perished, and there was one in this county that we just showed. But it's truly amazing when you saw it. It just that black look you saw. You come over this hill and there it is. It's like it's amazing. So, but that's a really interesting community. Those, like I said, those are lifers in terms of agriculture and how they're just. Okay, we're going to get after it and fix it. It's pretty amazing, really. So I just wanted to let people know, because to be honest with you, if you're not on social media, such as Facebook or Twitter or something like that, this didn't get a lot of national coverage.
I never seen it on the news a lot.
And not to be
very hard at all.
Cynical about it, but in these areas, there's just not a lot of TV viewers or votes.
You're right. You're right. Not a lot of votes.
And if this would have happened in a bigger populated state like Ohio or New York or something, California, you'd have heard about it all the time.
Constantly.
So I just, again, wanted to put that out for people to be aware what had happened to these folks in the beef industry. And it'll take a while to rebuild, but they'll do it. No question.
They're already starting. I'm sure they're already starting. So, well, obviously, those are feedlots, or some of them were, and such. But so with that, obviously, we're still producing beef and things like that. We wanted to talk a little bit about exports and how does that all play into this?
Well, it's been interesting. All of agriculture goes through cycles, supply and demand. If you're an economist at all or have any basic understanding of economics, supply and demand drives everything. And agriculture, in particular beef, has gone through pretty wild swings this decade. 2014 and 2015 will probably go down as, maybe in my lifetime, the high water mark for our prices. We kind of had a perfect storm of low numbers and strong demand. So prices went up. And since the fall of 2015, we've seen some volatility in prices. So right now it's actually pretty good. It's better than most of the trade organizations thought it would be. And I think there's reasons for that. I think we're producing a better product. Farmers and ranchers have done a good job of using good genetics to produce higher quality meat, but demand has been good. I personally give credit partly to the checkoff, to do ads for the industry.
Right.
But exports are a big part of it. Annually, 10 to 15% of our sales come from export markets.
Really?
Yeah, so the most recent figure I've seen that whatever a steer is worth today, roughly $300 of it comes from overseas sales.
Oh,
And that's very
That's
important.
interesting.
Just for information for the
$300.
audience, our main export markets today are Japan, South Korea, Mexico, Canada, and Hong Kong. Now, if you want to use your imagination a little bit, South Korea and Hong Kong, probably some of that winds up in China.
probably.
And there was just some news out the last 10 days about President Trump and the President of China meeting, talking about some of these trade issues. And we have been out of the China market since December of 2003. That's when the one case of mad cow came out, and they blocked our trade with them. So they're at least talking about it. I think it's going to be a little more difficult to get the actual mechanics worked out, but there's hope on the horizon. But,
At least we're talking about it. That's
but
for sure.
not to get too much into politics, but trade is important. We do have imports, and I know some people. We've heard about the wall at Mexico.
You're right.
There are some people that would like to build a wall around the country and just have exports. That's not the way it works.
No.
We have to have free trade.
Yep.
So it's important to the beef industry, and you think about where future growth would be. China's middle class, they're improving in terms of disposable income, and history has shown to us when a country gets more disposable income, they tend to eat more protein. Whether it's pork, chicken, or beef. So I'm just saying, I think that's something on the horizon that we need to be aware of. This is the beef industry is a long-term project. If you're into instant gratification, you're not going to raise beef cattle because
You're right there.
you breed a cow today, it's 283 days till it's born, and then to be ready for harvest to get into the food chain, it's typically another 15 to 20 months.
Right.
So the decisions we're doing today impacts probably what you're going to eat 2 to 3 years from now.
Yeah. Right.
Hey, welcome back. That was Agri News with John Grimes and co-host Dwayne Rigsby talking about commercial beef industry and how information assists cattle operations in making and maintaining an efficient and profitable beef enterprise. Their program, Agri News, comes on at 10 o'clock on the second Thursday of each month. And I always find that John and Dwayne do an excellent job in helping better understand the beef industry. Hey, we're going to take a quick station break and we'll be right back. In our final segment, Dr. Tom Worley, director of the Ohio State University South Centers, interviews Dr. Michael Drake, president of the Ohio State University, discussing how its land grant mission is important to all persons living in Ohio. OSU is an educational centerpiece in all of Ohio. Here's Tom.
Welcome to this session of South Center's Chat. It's my distinct honor and pleasure to have a special guest today, the president of the Ohio State University, Michael Drake. And it's an honor for me to be here on the campus in Columbus. Normally we're out at Rio Grande at the studios on the campus of Rio Grande when we do these sessions, but it's excellent to be here on the main campus of the university today. Welcome, Dr. Drake.
Well, welcome. Nice to see you, and very good to have you here in Columbus.
Great. We only had an opportunity to meet, I think, once previously, even though you're my boss, being obviously a employee, faculty member, and the director at OSU South Centers.
Yes.
And I just can't resist sharing just a little bit about this building and my first experience on the very floor, the second floor where your office is now, of coming here as a freshman many years ago, and I registered for classes on one
10, 15
end.
years at least, right?
Yeah, at least, and multiples thereof, but it still is fresh in my mind as I come up those steps today. and think about going to the registrar's desk and picking out the courses and trying to get times, walking to the other end and paying what sounds like a meager pittance, to come here those years ago. But obviously, to me, it's still near and dear to my heart, gave me the opportunities that I've enjoyed to actually come back a second time and a third time at Ohio State University and study agricultural economics all 3 times. I think you could infer from that I might have been a little thick-headed that it took that many times to get it through. But again, it's great to be a part of the university and under your leadership. And so having shared just a little bit of my background, Dr. Drake, it might be appropriate to share just a little bit of yours relative to University of California in the big scheme of things as a land-grant institution and kind of the experience you had there as part of the land-grant system.
Well, first, great to have a chance to chat with you in a little more depth, and your experience of coming to the university and those really meaningful first days when your mind is wide open, your eyes and ears you're incredibly observant and engaged at that point, and really build lifetime memories. You mentioned memories here in Bricker Hall and a few steps out the back door, the Oval as it was, and so these are things that are indelible memories, and we're really proud to be a part of that long tradition. I know that you and 500,000 other people could tell us about that first time they came to campus, and what a privilege it is to be able to be a part of such a great institution, how thrilled we've been to be here, and what a wonderful reception we've had as well. It's been great to be welcomed.
Great.
I mentioned that after having spent many, many years at the University of California. I was there for more than 40 years. And which is amazing. I mean, I started very young, but I started as a student, medical student. I'd been at college nearby as an undergraduate student. Actually, I was at my undergraduate campus just last week, and remember walking past the place where I met my wife, which was nice, and so it has all those memories as well. But that was a private university, and it was on a farm, though. It's the nickname for the university was the farm because it started on the farm of the person who founded the university.
And we are in California at this point.
We are in California, so he had a farm and started the farm. And so that was a great place. But the land-grant mission started more when I was at the University of California. And I was at a medical-only campus. But I had colleagues at the other campuses, and then after 20 or so years, after going to medical school and residency and 20 years on the faculty, I joined the central administration of the campus, of the system, and so I had responsibilities on all 10 of the campuses. Excuse me. And the land-grant mission was a very big part of the university system as a whole. So cooperative extension, county agents, a program in every one of the counties was a big part of the university, and we used that a lot there because I was health sciences when I first learned about it. We focused a lot on telemedicine and outreach and getting services to rural communities, to agricultural communities and others, as well as the founding land-grant mission of educating the people of the region to do good things for the region, and we cared a lot about that. And so I grew up with that and was very comfortable coming here.
Great. Well, obviously California is the #1 agricultural state, and when you think of a university campus on a farm, I have all kind of visions of specialty crops and maybe grapes or all the good things that we enjoy in our supermarkets that come from California.
Yes. Well, the farm, what was there, that was in 1891 when the school started. By the time I was there, 80 years later, roughly, it was pretty science focused. So that at the private university. When I was off to the University of California, then the real agricultural focus was the Davis campus, and we spent lots of time there. Davis also had a veterinary medical school. And that, when I was a health sciences person, that was my direct link there. And so we did lots with the agricultural and veterinary medical school at UC Davis. And so that was the farm animals as well as the agriculture in the Central Valley of California. And then the grape and wine region that really grew from enology at Davis, a really world-changing, actually, expertise in enology. And so that was great fun for me. I loved it a lot. I had very, very good colleagues there, and we worked on a regular basis.
Very good, very good. Well, of course, agriculture and health are not that far related when we think of the nutrition that we receive from the food that farmers produce, and how it's being worked on here at our university as well as others in terms of the nutritional value. And we're even getting into that a little bit at my center in terms of doing more chemical analysis of our berries and, of course, our wine grapes, and to some extent the hops and so forth that we're involved with. So science is a very big part of course, what the land grant is all about.
Well, I won't say anything about the fact that when you mentioned 3 crops, one was hops and another was wine grapes, and that. But what I would say is that you mentioned the connection between health and agriculture, and they're really the same thing. I mean, we are what we eat, and so we're really very, very connected. And when I was working in the health arena, we had one of the many things I was doing there is we had a global health initiative, and a part of that was a thing called One Health. And it really meant that food and the animal population and the human population were all really connected, and any divisions between them were artificial, and so we had to make sure we knew how each of the segments would affect the others. That was very important. I was just out at Farm Science Review about 2 weeks ago, and which is a great event for anyone who hasn't been there, but it's a combination between like the state fair and a car show. I mean, really amazing science, amazing technology, great things that help us do a better job of being farmers in an efficient and effective way. And the focus that the state has on producing more and better food, and on food that is rich in nutrition and produced in a way that can get to lots of people and help people have diets that are really beneficial to them. It's a really big part of what we're doing, and really proud to be associated.
Yeah. Farm Science Review is a big centerpiece of our college's activity, one of the most visible things, I think, each year, and everybody certainly enjoys. I think 117,000 people is what was
this
counted,
year. We had an amazing year. Yes.
Quite a year. I wonder if you could share with me just a little bit. I heard you early in your presidency, you came to our Extension annual conference over in the Ohio Union, and you gave an excellent overview of the land grant mission and that tripart mission of teaching, research, and extension, and how you had experienced that in California. You've touched on that a little bit.
Yes.
But, especially thinking about a bit of our southern Ohio audience, out of Columbus, out of the urban areas, into the rural areas of Ohio, how the teaching mission and the access fits into part of your 2020 vision and affordability. You might talk a little bit about the student recruitment and retention here at Ohio State.
I enjoyed my visit to Southern Ohio very, very much, and when I came down to see you, and was at Rio Grande and went down to Gallipolis, and and had a great day. Spent the night in Benton County. Worked on a urban farm. It wasn't so urban. I mean, it was a garden plot at the school, at the high school, and so it was near a big building, but it was really to kind of do a great job.
But you can always say rural when you're in Benton County.
I was
There's
saying,
no
yeah,
danger.
no. When I said I was near a big building, but it was actually, it was in Benton County, so it was rural.
Right.
But let me say, we worked there with people on trying to connect in a very good way with the good people we met. We were in MacArthur, I think, and we had a good day.
Excellent.
And so that's a real important part of what we do, or what we believe we do, is that we are connected to all 88 counties in Ohio. There are people in Cincinnati and people in Cleveland, people toward the east or the west, but everyone's Buckeye.
Right.
And so we have programs and students in all 88 counties. Absolutely. We have a new thing that we've established this year called affordability grants that we've used. We worked on administrative savings, trying to find how people in this building could save some money by being more effective and efficient, and then trying to capture those savings and return them immediately to our students. And so we returned $15 million in need-based aid to our students, lower income and middle income, students from lower income and middle income families, and we were able to give affordability grants to students in all 88 counties. So we had students all over, and that's a really important thing for us. And our land grant mission is to serve the people of the region in which we were founded. All of these universities were put someplace for the purpose of uplifting the people that were there, educate the sons and daughters of people who are living there, and so that's a really important part of our mission. And then we educate people for them to be able to go into the community and be leaders.
Absolutely.
So when we think about our students, we think of a 4-part mission. We have 4 pillars of excellence that we try to focus on. One is academic excellence, which takes place in the classroom. Another is research excellence, which is really creative excellence. So it can be in a laboratory science research, but it also can be writing a song or a play or something else, or a novel. So it's not just bench science creativity or research, it's also research in the human condition and in the arts. So there's academic excellence, research excellence, and then we have character excellence. We think about developing the whole person when they come to our campus. We get people who are routinely just out of high school and first time living away from home, first time living on their own, and there's a lot of growth that takes place over those years. You'll remember again when you arrived here and the difference when by the time you left here a few years later. And then we think of leadership excellence, that we want people to be able to go back into their communities and take a hand in leading those communities forward. And those again tie in with our original founding mission to be able to educate the people of the region, to do things that make a difference. We also want to, we acquire, we create, and we disseminate knowledge.
Hey, that was our final segment. That was Tom Worley, Dr. Tom Worley, on South Center's Chat, speaking with the president of the Ohio State University, Dr. Michael Drake. They discussed a variety of different issues, including the land grant mission, and how Ohio State University has been and continues to be an educational centerpiece in all of Ohio. You know, Dwayne, we collaborate with a number of different partners, and one of our really good partners is the University of Rio Grande Community College.
It is, Patrick, and we originally started over there, right?
That is correct.
How many years ago have we been? When did we start this project?
Well, you know, it was our video telecast, our radio. It started using a phone, and what it was a project for the MBA students to be able to get on some kind of media services and discuss different parts about a business plan and things of that nature.
Right.
And then Mike Thompson, who's the instructional design and media services, offered to allow us to expand those services and be able to go on the TV channel 17, Rio Grande Cable Access.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. And that covers what, Jackson County?
Jackson, Vinton, Gallia, and Ross.
So that covers a
and
lot
Pike,
of people.
Pike County too. Yep.
So yeah, and that's the what, Time Warner or Spectrum Now cable network.
Yes,
that's their
is
local
correct.
channel.
But you know, Dwayne, live streaming and different, you know, back when I was a young boy, etc., the technology just wasn't there for individuals to tap into. And now look at where we are at the present time. We are very much actively involved in live streaming. I know with your help, we have 2 live streaming programs. We get into the radio and the TV, YouTube's, Facebook.
Right. Yeah, we're doing a lot. We're trying to promote the South Centers and partners like Rio, and then some of our SBDC partners, our other extension agents that work with us here locally as well.
And I think that's very important. You know, I accepted a long time ago that not everyone in the world will listen to our programs.
Well, true. Not everybody does, but they have the option. I think it's good educational material. You know, when the ones that I think people will continue watching, we'll continue broadcasting, continue making, and then some of the ones that kind of, you know, slow up, we may not shoot as much.
That is very, very true. And it's just we're very fortunate to live in the world that we can, where we have so many opportunities to better increase our knowledge and understanding.
Yeah, we do. We do. And, geez, what better way? Everybody watches videos now, so that's what we're doing. We're trying to do this with videos in all forms. Or
Yes.
in all social media platforms, I guess.
Yes, that's very true. Well, Dwayne, I wanted to thank you very much for assisting in our program, being a co-host and technology specialist.
Well, I'm sitting over here in the cornfield, Patrick. Yeah.
And I'm sitting in an office, and that's just not fair.
That's not fair, is it?
Yeah, where would we be without the technology? Well, again, I'm Patrick. I really appreciate the looking at some of our different unique programs. Check us out on Wednesday afternoons at the University of Rio Grande Community College Cable Access. We have a variety of different shows. In the same way with on Thursday mornings, some of our different programs and shows that occur in the morning. On that note, I'm Patrick. Thank you for listening.